Hi, I'm Kelsey Vukic, Social and Behavioral Sciences Librarian at USC Libraries. This video is going to cover strategic searching. The primary focus of our search will be on organizational citizenship behavior and remote workers. We're going to expand on these different questions when we conduct our research, and we want to keep them in mind when we're searching.
So here I am at the library's website. Our homepage is libraries.usc.edu. And I want to start my search by looking for a database that I think that will be relevant to my research topic. So under our Find menu, I can go to Databases, and then it'll give me a list of all of our different databases. One of the things that we can do because we have 1,800 databases is to filter by subject area. And so we actually do have an applied psychology subject area where kind of our common databases that cover topics that are often studied by students in the applied psychology program would find useful. So these are kind of like our recommended or align with the subject area. And so you can see those 16 databases. You can also, if you feel that these databases that are listed, they all have a description. And so if you feel that you need something a little different, you can also, I would either recommend, depending on what your subject area is, granted, we have all these different subject areas, but if you are looking for more of like business focused, business accounting and economics is a subject area, as well as psychology is another subject area. So there's 23 databases listed here. There may be some overlap because we do see that, for example, let's see, we have applied psychology, but some of these have like overlapping. So Gale, one file business. It also includes tags of accounting, applied psychology, business and accounting and economics. And so that's where the subject area kind of pulls from. Versus the Gale psychology collection, it has the tags of applied psychology as well as psychology. So we'll see that some like overlap, and some of the same databases will be listed, whether you are in the applied psychology section, the business, accounting, and economics section, or the just psychology section. So you can keep that in mind and when you're trying to find databases for where to search. Searching on individual databases can be helpful. Many of these are subject specific, and granted, when we say subject specific, that you might assume that it's going to be a single subject, but sometimes it can be very broad. So that's where we see things like A to Z World Business encompasses accounting, business economics, but also topics related to applied psychology. With ABI Informed Collection, this actually should have more tags because it is kind of a broader database as far as business information goes. This is usually my go-to source for a lot of topics in applied, or when I'm working with students in applied psychology or topics related to applied psychology, because it is pretty broad and it often does include information around organizational structures, culture, leadership, and I often see themes of that in research related to kind of MAP or interests amongst MAP students. So I'm going to start with ABI Informed Collection in order to do our initial search. It does also include trade publications, which is to know because oftentimes you might also be looking for peer-reviewed materials or academic scholarly journal articles, as well as trade publications as part of your criteria. And it's also a good resource for your tree stay. So I'm going to start here for our initial search. So I'm just going to open it up in a new tab. It's going to ask me to log in, make sure that I have my credentials all squared away. I am already logged in, so it's bypassing that input, but you will also be asked to authenticate yourself and make sure that you put in your USC credentials. To start, on that first primary focus of what types of organizational citizenship behaviors, OCBs, are remote workers engaging in, I want to make sure that I have an idea of what uh, organizational citizenship behaviors means, and I want to see if this database actually has a definition for it. So one of the first things I'm going to do is go to the advanced search section, and many of these databases have either a thesaurus search or a subject term search. And so you can use the thesaurus search to kind of check the language or terminology that you use when you are conducting your keyword searches. So I'm going to go ahead and type in organizational citizenship behaviors. Actually, I had done it earlier, so I can just pull from that drop down, and I'm going to search. Now, ProQuest Thesaurus doesn't actually have that as part of its um, subject terms. It's not recognized. We see organizational change is present, organizational culture, organizational development, organizational justice, organizational learning, organizational structure, and then we kind of get into broader organizations, but we don't actually recognize organizational citizenship behaviors. I'm going to try one more of just organizational citizenship and see if that identifies it as a subject term, and it doesn't. I just wanted to be sure. As long as it contains those words, it should have populated in the results, even if they had organizational citizenship, they don't. But one of the things that can be helpful is when you, if a keyword or terminology that you are familiar with, if you search it here, it can be good to see if it actually populates here because it often will give you a definition. And it's okay to still use this term or concept when I conduct a search as a keyword. We just know that it's not going to be recognized by the database as a subject term that they have identified and assigned to any of the publications. Just to show you an example of what it looks like when we do find a subject term through the thesaurus is to click on this little box with the box on top of a box, and it provides a definition. So for organizational change, it defines this term as the process in which an organization makes changes to any aspect of its business, including its structure, strategies, technologies, etc. Some related terms that might correlate with this identified subject term is downsizing, management of change, organizational learning, and turnaround management. And all of these things that are hyperlinked, if we click on them, it'll now repopulate and give us the ability to look at its definition. Clicking on, say, organizational change, it gives us now in a broader area some broader terms as well as narrower terms, like so more specific organizational change, shakeups is a more narrow term for organizational change. Business process reengineering, again, they have a definition for what that means, how it's used for. So if there are other terms that might be similar to this one, it's also saying that using this subject term will encompass business process redesign or reengineering. And then again, we have other related terms in addition to a definition. So the thesaurus can be really helpful in that it allows us to check the terminology that we're using, see if there are subject terms that are recognized by the platform, and we can use that to do a search. And in the results, I'll show you what that looks like when subject terms are present. It can also be helpful because sometimes the language that's used in the scholarly literature may differ from language used in, say, a trade publication, and may differ especially as there are new trends emerging or it's a new concept. And so it might not have integrated into the terminology. We know that language changes over time. And so sometimes it's good to see kind of this provides us a view of kind of more historical or established language and terminology around different subjects. And so if we want to kind of expand our search going backwards, oftentimes that can be helpful in order to kind of look at the thesaurus and, find other terminology that we might use in order to improve the accuracy of our results. I'm going to go back to where we landed with our basic search. And I'm going to search organizational citizenship behaviors here as well. I'm going to be putting them in quotation marks. The reason why I put the term in quotation marks is because I want to look for this exact phrase to be present in the search results. This is called a phrase searching, putting our concept. I often say like our keyword, but keyword sounds it's singular. And so organizational citizenship behaviors is a concept that I'm trying to search. And then otherwise, if I didn't use the quotation marks, anywhere organizational appears, anywhere citizenship appears, or anywhere behavior appears within the results, it should populate. But this is to narrow it down to a specific concept that I'm trying to identify. So I'm going to go ahead and search, and I found 6,000 results. I see here in both the first and second result that organizational citizenship behaviors is highlighted as part of the title. If I click on the title, it'll open up the abstract, it opens up the full text. But one of the things that I'm looking for and I want to find is a definition for organizational citizenship behaviors, because I want to see if there's other terms or keywords that I could use in order to expand my search and increase my search results if I were to do another search. So here, because again, it's highlighting anywhere our search term is used. Accordingly, organizational citizenship behavior, OCB, has been defined as employees' voluntary behaviors that goes beyond the required tasks, such as helping others, following guidelines, solving problems, and having tolerance for inconveniences in the organization. And then it also provides a citation for where this is coming from, so the original source that they pulled from to provide this definition. Now, I am not familiar, just in my own knowledge prior to making this video, around organizational citizenship behavior. So hopefully this aligns with your own definition of what you're familiar with it. I could go and see if we can find these original sources in order to see how they define it. One of the ways that I can do that is that I can go and look in their reference list and see the full citation for these publications. And then the USC Libraries does have a citation search feature, and I can search and see if we have access to the full text of those citations within our subscriptions. So it was, I believe this was one of the citations. And so this one also, the mediating role of organizational citizenship behavior, is part of the title, and they likely define it because they are cited within this article. And then the second one, I believe the second one is this citation that was published in 2000. We see that this author is listed several times, but I know from the citation it was published in 2000. So this is the only one by that author in 2000. So Organizational Citizenship Behaviors, a critical review of the theoretical and empirical literature and suggestions for future research. This is published in 2000. Granted, a lot of times instructors are going to ask you to use contemporary materials, and so that often is within the last 10 years. But if this is foundational as far as research goes, often you can have kind of a carve out as far as having any kind of date restriction. Since I don't have background knowledge on organizational citizenship behaviors, I'm actually going to go and look it up in a different database. So I'm going to go back to the library's homepage. So I just changed back to my other database tab, and I'm actually going to click on that USC Libraries icon, and it takes us back to our homepage. Scrolling down a little bit on the homepage, we do have some database quick links, and one of the ones that is listed here is actually Credo Reference, and Credo Reference can be a really helpful reference resource in order to get background information on certain topics. So I'm going to actually search OCBs and see if they have anything here, just so I can get additional information and define the term. So this second item listed is our organizational citizenship behavior. It's coming from Leadership Glossary, Essential Terms for the 21st Century, and this is providing a very short description, but it provides a definition. And so it defines it as OCB is individual behavior that helps promote the well-being of the organization, but occurs outside the set of behaviors that are explicitly rewarded by the organization, such as those that are rewarded by performance incentives or specifically requested by supervisors or policies. It identifies that since the 1960s, research on OCB has illustrated how important this kind of employee behavior is to the effectiveness and well-being of an organization. And the original or standard definition was articulated by Dennis Organ in the 1970s. So Dennis Organ is likely foundational or provides foundational scholarship in this topic. And so if we need to have additional background information, it would be worthwhile to try to find out the original research that Dennis Organ put out in the 70s regarding this topic. It does go and provide us with additional content or context around his work that it's been challenged because of the difficulty of clearly identifying OCB in the workplace. He himself noted that the definition was more useful when jobs had clearly defined tasks, and that the influence of management theory on the workplace and the increase in ambiguously defined work roles has blurred the lines between reward motivated and rule driven behavior in OCB. And so a more recently articulated concept is extra role behavior. So that gives me additional context or additional insight into maybe another search term that I would use when conducting a search. Extra role behavior could be also added in. So we could search organizational citizenship behavior or extra role behavior. I'm back in ABI Informed Collection, and I'm back to the article that I found that was published in 2022, where I got that initial definition of organizational citizenship behaviors, that it's voluntary behaviors that go beyond the required tasks, such as helping others, following guidelines, etc. I clicked on the abstract details page before we landed on the full text page. Here, I like to look at a couple different things to provide additional insight into this particular article and give me ideas of other terminology that we might want to use in order to kind of enhance our search results. One of the things is looking at the subject terms. This is essentially the terminology or subject terms that I are identified in the thesaurus. So if we were to click on these, prompt a new search, pretty much everything that is blue text is hyperlinked. So it will either conduct a new search or take you to new content. But essentially, looking at these subject terms, I know that this article touches on innovations, behavior, leadership, culture, role models, success, employees, and small and medium-sized enterprises, or SME. So that gives me some additional insight. We don't explicitly have organizational citizenship behaviors identified. We don't even have extra role performance or extra role responsibilities identified, so that may not be a subject term. I also can get more information, so I can see the location for this study, and potentially even the publication of the journal itself is in Kurdistan. The publication title is the Iranian Journal of Management Studies. One of the things that might disqualify this article is the fact that it is published internationally or with an international focus, where maybe you are looking specifically at the United States, or if there's another country that you have as the focus of your research. Having that location identified can be really helpful because we can actually filter out our results based on location. So these are some good things to look at and kind of identify and keep an eye out in order to find more resources. I'm going to go back to the results page, and I'm actually going to do a more advanced search now. I'm going to expand on that organizational citizenship behaviors concept, and I'm going to add the extra role responsibilities. Now, I use Grammarly. I have that plugin, the Grammarly plugin, and so it's telling me that extra role is spelled incorrectly. I thought that in Credo it was extra role they had as one word, but maybe we'll just click on the hyphen and see what the results look like. Again, I've put this concept in quotation marks because I want to look for this specific phrase for it to appear. And one of the things that I have also done is added parentheses. And so I'm grouping these two search terms together because I identify them as kind of different ways to describe the same concept. And so I'm grouping them together in parentheses, so they're here grouped together, and then I separate them by or. So this is, I'm using search operator or, so I'm essentially telling the system to look for organizational citizenship behaviors or extra role responsibilities. One of the things that I also saw was extra role performance when I was actually prepping ahead of time and I scanned through this a little bit more for other definitions. So I could also add that because extra role responsibilities or extra role performance are kind of similar in concept. And again, doing that phrase search. I also want to connect this to remote workers because that was one of the things that we identified as our primary focus for our research topic. And I'm going to put remote workers in quotation marks. So this is a little more advanced, it's called a nesting search. So I'm nesting my similar concepts together and grouping them in parentheses. I separate them by the search operator or, but I still want to connect and narrow it down because I want these terms to exist in combination with remote workers. And so when I did my organizational citizenship behavior search, I had 6,800 results, almost 6,900. By adding these extra terms, the or instance of searching, it should actually expand the results because now I'm adding more options as far as what can be present in the search results. But adding in the and remote workers, saying that this concept also needs to be present, may actually reduce the results. So if I didn't have remote workers and I just did a search with these three search terms, I should increase my search results beyond 6,000. But now that I'm adding in the remote workers, it might actually reduce below 6,000. So we'll kind of roll the dice and see what that looks like. So here we go. I was right. And it really reduced it down to 45 results. One of the things that I'm thinking is that with COVID-19, we saw a large increase in a majority of industries working remotely and even choosing to stay remote or have remote options or hybrid options once vaccination was available and people were more comfortable returning in person. So we do see on the publication range that the results go back as far as 1998. But if we want to look at it in more contemporary terms as far as remote work in the last few years, we can actually adjust the little date range here. Oftentimes, when we talk about contemporary materials, we're saying about the last 10 years, so I can update that, and that will further filter my results. So again, it keeps kind of cutting it. This time it's cutting it in half again. And so it's going to be really interesting to see what our results look like and how relevant they are to our search topic. So kind of what I just spoke to about looking at it in more contemporary context and looking forward, this looks like it likely may touch on that question of what it looks like in the future. So life after COVID-19, what if we never go back to the office? I'm going to click on this article. This was published in the Irish Journal of Management. Again, it defaults to the full text. I want to go and look at the abstract details first. This was published in 2021, so somewhat recently. The subject terms here are workforce planning, behavior, workers, managers, pandemics, workforce, citizenship, occupations, norms, coronavirus, feedback, performance management, COVID-19, and female employees. So it kind of gives me a high-level view without even reading the abstract what this may be about. We see there's also a business indexing terms. It's kind of the same idea as the subject terms in just the ProQuest thesaurus. So again, we'll see often overlap in terms. So workforce planning, workers, workforce permanence management, and female employees is also present. Again, this was in the Irish Journal of Management. So it might also, again, place and country publication looking at Ireland. And so again, we might want to limit our search results to the US or more of a US focus. Over here on the right-hand side, there are some suggested sources that may also be related. I'm seeing a lot of them are coming from the Irish Journal of Management. They all are. These may or may not be helpful. I don't see any of them that really touch on OCBs. One of the things that we're seeing with this particular publication, and we didn't see on some of the other ones that we looked at the details for, are, and this may be because it's less recent, some of the other ones were within the last year or so, is that they have additional links. And so it makes it easy to expand your searching for more content. This is what I call the hop, skip, and jump method to research. So here it'll list the 155 references that are cited in this publication. And what's nice about, again, our databases is that anything that's hyperlinked, it will take you elsewhere. So either we have access to some of these publications full text within our database, whether it's in this one or one of the other ones. It does allow you to easily kind of expand and collect more research instead of just always putting in search terms once you find relevant or related publications to your topic, kind of coming in and looking at their references. Granted, they'll be a little bit older than this original publication, May 2019, but here we see like March of 2018, we see May of 2017. So there's still, some more contemporary materials that are available. So you can kind of go through and see either based on titles if anything sounds worthwhile or related to our topic. If you see this Find It at USC button, it likely means that we don't have full text access to this article here in ABI Inform collection, but we likely have it through a different database. One of the other things that we can do is see that there have been 7 other publications that have cited this original research. And so if I click on the cited by, I can now see the 7 articles, and some are dissertations, but some are research journals that have cited this original research. It gives us a list of 74,000 other documents that have shared references with the original article. And so of their 155 articles that they cite, it's going to show you 75,000 other publications where at least one of those references is present. So again, this is a hop, skip, and jump way to collect more research and expand your sources, expand the literature that you're able to kind of read through and sort and look at arguments and supporting information in order for you to then help use that as a foundation in your own research paper or your treatise. So that can be really helpful. And back at our search results, back at the 27 from 2012 to 2022, so primarily scholarly, half are scholarly, half are dissertations. One of the things that we could do is limit to scholarly journals. But one of the things that I want to look at is the subject terms. And when I went to the thesaurus, I was searching for specific subject terms. But when I look at the subject terms that are provided here, these are reflecting the subject terms that are present in the research. So we see out of the 17 publications, the subject terms employees is present. We also see management, leadership, communication, behavior, employment, job satisfaction, organizational behavior. These are all terms that are present at different levels. And so sometimes it might give me ideas of other terminology that I might want to use. So we have remote workers. We might want to expand that to employees, especially if we want to see if there's a difference between remote workers engaging in OCB versus employees that are working in the office or in person. We might also want to search for engagement because I know that's one of our, or even like employee involvement. That would be another interesting one or like useful one to search. And so we can either include them or exclude them. So for example, if we're not taking into account, say, employee turnover, or actually, let's do independent contractors. If we exclude independent contractors, I can apply that. And the way that it now conducts a search is essentially it's excluding the concept or subject term independent contractors. And so this is where the subject operator not comes into play. This will exclude any publications that have that independent contractor subject terms. I might want to add some more search terms. So one of the things that I did to kind of expand our search options and the box doesn't expand as I add in more search terms. But I added the concept of virtual teams to our search, and I need to put the parentheses outside of the quotation. So virtual teams or remote workers. And I wanted to connect it to engagement or performance or motivation. So I wanted to add these search terms because I feel like they're kind of what we're trying to get at the heart of the engagement that remote employees are putting forth as far as the organizational goes, and whether OCB impacts engagement, performance, or motivation. So I'm going to do a search again, click the search. It does remember my filters, so it's going to keep in our filters for the date range as well as not independent contractors. I've increased the results. We were down at 27. We're back up to 159. So this one looks interesting. This is a recent one. I'm okay when you're with me, understanding the well-being and innovative behavior in the digitized workspace. So digitized workspace might be another term that we want to use in order to conduct our searches and kind of expand. It's coming from the International Journal of Sociology and Social Policy. Looking here at the subject terms, again, we see behavior, organizational research, employers, supervisors, well-being. It's looking at sales workers, innovative behavior, psychological well-being, and again, it pulls into consideration of coronavirus or COVID. This is looking at these factors specifically during COVID-19. We don't have the full text here, but we do have that. Find it at USC. One of the other things we also have is interlibrary loan. And so if we don't have it through a different database, we can also request it through interlibrary loan, or Iliad is the platform that you can use in order to access it. So I mentioned that when you find an article or a publication that is relevant, looking to see where it's published can be really helpful, because that way you can then search or browse within that journal. So for example, just looking at number 5, Journal of Business and Psychology, that might be a good journal to search within. We see here over on the left-hand side the filters. We can also see all the publication titles. So if we click on more, we can see more of the journals listed. And again, it'll show you count. So most of them are coming from, or 76, the highest count is coming from ProQuest dissertations and theses. We didn't limit by publication type or source type, so we're seeing everything else. There'll be a couple here and there throughout. So trying to identify any that might be worth exploring more closely. Again, approaching or using the hop, skip, and jump method approach to searching. Looking maybe at Journal of Business and Psychology, Journal of Managerial Psychology, or Industrial and Organizational Psychology, Journal of Organizational Psychology. A lot of these are going to look at, in theory, organizational citizenship behaviors and engagement. So one fast and easy way to get to one of these. So for example, if I want to go to the Journal of Business and Psychology, you can click on the title here of this article and then click on the link for the journal. So one thing about this journal is that it does look like we do have a delay in our access as far as full text goes. So we'll see here all these recent ones from a recent October 2022 publication. They are not available in full text, but we have that find it at USC or get the full text. And so potentially we might have access through a different database. Sometimes we have duplicate access across different platforms, even when some platforms do have a delay. But one of the things that we could do is search within this journal. So I'm searching organizational citizenship behaviors, or OCBs. So I'm putting in the search terms organizational citizenship behaviors, or CBSs, or extra role responsibilities, or extra role performance. And I'm going to search, and it's only going to show me results where these terms are present within this journal. And I got an error, so let's try simplifying it a little bit. So I'm simplifying the search to organizational citizenship behaviors, or OCBs. And I'll do a search. We got 200. It's asking if I meant orbs. I did not mean orbs. And we can kind of see what the results look like. This may be interesting. Who will go the extra mile selecting organizational citizens with a personality-based structural job interview? This might be taking a different approach to OCBs as related to employee engagement. It's also not necessarily looking at remote workers. There may be some information or theory or outcomes that they found in their research that might still apply to remote workers. One of the things that's interesting just in the abstract is that it's expanded on different types of OCB. So OCB compliance, helping, initiative. And so I'm wondering if there are other components, such as personality, which may affect the outcome of employee engagement in OCB. This was published in 2021, and so we have an embargo through ABI Inform, but if we click on that Get Full Text, we might have it in a different database, so we'll see. Yes, it pulls up the full text. So it may be available through a Springer database, but I would be interested to go and look at their references. And again, to hop, skip, and jump my way around research, I see D. Organ has been cited. Ooh, interesting. Organizational citizenship behavior, the good soldier syndrome. So these might be some good foundational or historic citations to try to look at. Unfortunately, here when we have the full text, this platform doesn't give us the easy access to the references. And with some of these DOIs, it doesn't necessarily take into account of our USC access. And so it might take you to a database where the journal resides or the publication resides, but it won't trigger the USC authentication or that it's going through a USC portal. And so you might still then have to do a search. In case you find a citation and it doesn't provide easy access to link to it, one of the things that I do want to show you is that you can go under our Find menu and do a Find by Citation. Here, if you put in the citation information for a publication, it defaults to article, but you could also do book or journal. If you put in the citation information, it's important to do article title, journal title, year. Start page isn't always important, but it could be helpful, but usually author's last name. If you put in those components, typically the system will try to find that citation and then prompt you to access the full text if we have access to it.
That concludes our strategic searching demo. To review, we broke down our core concepts and came up with some synonyms in order to expand our search results. Further, there are multiple steps in the timeline. We'll conduct an initial search, hop, skip, and jump around the research, refine your search, and then lastly, you want to take action, either exporting your citations or saving your content. I want to wish you the best of luck in conducting your own research. If you have any questions, feel free to follow up.